What does everybody feel like working on?
Digestion.
Digestion? Okay. I definitely want to do the wall fold series because that's a goodie. We don't have it on video yet and everyone's asked for it. So anything else coming to mind for anybody? Digestion, the wall fold series.
Anything that's pelvis, hip opening here, I'm just tight.
You feeling locked out?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do some stuff for that.
Could we do that new lunge? If it,
It's a good twisty one. Yeah, we can do that.
or and I know you showed a new version of pyramid, if that's possible.
New version of
Like a
pyramid.
revolve triangle.
Oh yeah, that we can do that for sure. Yeah, on Thursday we did that. Yeah, we can do that for sure. Anything else coming to mind for anybody? We're good with that? All right, let's get started. So we're gonna come onto our backs just to loosen up our hips. So knees together, feet together, hands behind the thighs, make a nice C. Come down nice and slow, one disc, one vertebra at a time. Let your feet come up, interlace your fingers over the shins, and just rocking from side to side. You're on a double, hey Lara? Yeah, good. Pushing through the feet. And then finding that nice zigzags of the legs where the hip flexors go towards the butt, backs of the knees go towards the front of the knees, ankles go towards the heels. As if the crease was moving towards the calf and the calf was moving back towards the crease. Let's let the rocking from side to side turn into a pulsing, drawing the legs to us, taking the legs away from us. And then some circles. Then changing the interlacing of the fingers, so swapping the grip. And then changing direction with the circles. And keeping the knees and ankles together if you can. Thinking about the sit bones moving towards the end of the mat, feet moving towards the end of the mat. Let's go back into some pulsing, drawing the legs to us and away from us. And then back to where we started, rocking from side to side. And then stopping from side to side, let that left foot come down. We're going to interlace our fingers, right hand on top of left, over the right shin. We're going to try and keep the ankle, the knee, and the hip in a nice straight line. We're going to gently pull down with the hands on the leg as the leg lifts back up into the hands. And if you're looking for a little bit more stretch, you can start to straighten out your left leg. Really sitting the left butt, left hip flexor down as if it was moving from hip flexor to sit bone or butt into an imaginary chair. Imagine the right foot was pushing into a wall. Imagine the left foot was either pushing into the floor or a wall. I like to visualize if I walk between my thighs. My inner thighs are trying to drop the block. My outer thighs are trying to squeeze the block. Imagine I walk between the heels, inner heels trying to drop the block, outer heels trying to squeeze the block. And we want the heels and the toe mounds to be equal distance from the knee. So noticing if you're shortening in the big toe mound or on the inner heel. Nice deep, full breaths. Then from here we're going to bend that left leg, placing the sole of the left foot onto the floor. Releasing your hands, we're going to take that right ankle and just place it on the outside of the left knee. Thinking about the right knee moving away from the right shoulder. Find a nice neutral pelvis, pubic bone, hip bones level, so you can get rid of any wrinkles in your heels. Here, number 4 pose, if you're looking for less stretch, you can slide the foot away from you, or you can slide the foot back to you. You can put a foot on a block, or you can interlace your fingers behind the thigh. Making sure that this doesn't cause any tension in your shoulders. If your shoulders start to pop up, then you want to either use a strap or slide your hands down the thighs to make the arms longer, so you can pull your arm bones into your shoulders and relax the shoulder heads to the floor. And then creating a tug of war. Imagine the legs want to move away from you. Even allowing those legs to move as far away from you as they can. See if you can keep the hip bones level so that the right hip bone is not lower than the left hip bone. And generally to keep that, you have to pull the left femur into the hip socket. And then once you've created that tug of war between the arms and the legs, slowly, gradually allow the arms to win that tug of war as you allow the arms to pull that left leg in a little bit closer towards your body. Close your eyes, really focus on your body from the inside, focus on where you're feeling this stretch, and think about breathing into that space. Think inner knee to outer knee, inner heel to outer heel. If you need a prop you don't have, just let me know. Skin of the armpits moving up towards the sky. Really finding the length even in the two sides of the torso. So the distance from hip to armpit on two sides is the same. Let's just go 5 more breaths here. Shiny. And then when those 5 breaths are complete for you, no rush. You're just going to release your fingers. You're going to let that left foot come down in line with the left sit bone. Keep your feet nice and active. Keep that triangle between your legs. As you pick up your pelvis, you're just going to move your pelvis a little bit to the right. You're going to have your arms beside you, keeping the legs active. You're going to slowly lower the legs to the left. If this feels too intense for your back or it's pinching at all in your knees, you can always take a block and support that left thigh. So something that'll keep you from going further. You can put a block underneath the foot if that felt more appropriate for you. It's really important to keep the feet nice and active, particularly that bottom foot. Does anybody feel like they need a prop they don't have? And then you can find whatever arms you like. Halfway to a T would be quite mellow. Cactus arms would be a little bit more intense. I like to interlace my fingers. I'm doing the right side, so I put my right hand on top of my left, and I just put my hands to the back of the skull like a pillow. Find your feet. See if you can lengthen the back rib cage away from the pelvis and the left ribs to the left side away from the right shoulder, just to get a little bit more of a straight spine. And maybe you can even turn your gaze towards that right side, looking the opposite direction of that left knee. Nice deep, full breaths. If it tugs into your knee at all, you can always move that left foot a little bit further away from your right sit bone. Or do less, coming out and giving yourself support. Good place to find the knee connection, where the back of the knee is moving towards the kneecap and the inner knee is moving towards the outer knee. Hip flexors moving towards butt, sit bones sitting down into a chair, ankle crease towards the heel. Front thigh to back thigh, calf to shin. Nice deep, full breaths. Does anybody feel like they need help finding this? Sometimes this one can be tricky. So, do you feel how your ankle's sickling? Do you want to fix it? Yeah. Like that. You see how that just got rid of the wrinkles in your ankle? No, it's not wrinkled. So you went from this to this. I have a different, see the rotation of my knee there? See the rotation of my knee there. Nice. And then push against me here. There we go. Big, beautiful breaths. So to come out of this one, we want to really activate the legs. We want to bring our neck back to neutral. We're going to bring our arms down halfway to a T so they're lower than the shoulders. Really fire up the feet, pull in your belly. Keep the shape of the legs as you bring the legs back up to center. Straighten out your spine so that your pubic bone is in line with your nose and your navel's in the middle. And then draw that right knee towards your belly button left femur back into the hip socket. You might even be able to push into the elbows to lengthen the back ribs away from that neutral pelvis. Keeping the foot flexed, you can always bend the knee if you need to make it a little bit gentler, especially if it's tugging into your back at all. We don't want it to tug into your back. Ribs are going to stay rooting into the floor and not popping out in the front of your chest. You can have your arms beside you, pushing into your fingers and your palms, or you can keep your hands on your pelvis and your ribs to encourage that the ribs don't pop and the pelvis doesn't change, but keep those arms nice and active. Flex the foot, exhale to lower. Once the heel hits, you're going to drag that heel towards the right sit bone, keeping the ankle, the knee, and the hip in a straight line. Then you're going to drag the heel away from that right sit bone. Then you're going to bring that right leg straight up in the air, bending the knee if it's too hard or it tugs into your back. You're going to exhale to lower the right leg. Heel taps the floor. You're going to drag the heel to the right butt. You're going to inhale to drag the heel away, back up. Nice. Exhale to lower the leg. Inhale to drag the heel towards the butt. Exhale to drag the heel away. Inhale to lift the heel up. And then exhale to lower the leg again. If it's wanting a little bit more of a challenge, don't drag the heel. Just hover the heel as close to the floor as you can without touching the floor. So it's as if your heel is dragging a marble to and from your butt. After you do that a couple times, if you still want to make it harder, you can always straighten out the left leg. Pelvis not changing, ribs not popping. And if it's still easy peasy, the next time that right leg comes up, you can always float the left heel. So floating the heel if the leg is straight. Yeah. See if you can find nice active arms. Push into your fingers, push into your palms. Shoulder head staying relaxed the whole time. So Jen, see if you can find those down dog arms yet. The next time you bring that right leg back up in the air, keep that right leg back up in the air. Push through the sole of the foot. Remember, you can bend one or both knees at any time. And we're just going to draw little circles with that right heel. Really thinking about that movement coming from inside the hip socket at the head of the femur. Nothing else moving except for that right leg is drawing heel circles. So the foot's not moving, the whole leg is moving, the foot is flexed. So foot's not moving, June, just the leg is moving, foot is still. Change direction with the circles. Again, if it feels challenging, bend your knee. You can always make circles with the kneecap as opposed to the heel. And stopping with those circles, let's bend the left leg. Let's cross the right leg nice and tight over the left leg so the thighs are touching. See if you can have hip bones equal distance from the floor. See if you can lengthen the spine away from the pelvis. And then let's take it into sleepy cat. You can put your foot on a block. You can use a strap behind your thighs. You can interlace your fingers, right hand on top of left behind the thighs. Shoulder heads relaxing. Armpits lifting up into the shoulders and sliding up towards the sky. Hands are going to pull down on the legs, and the legs are going to lift back up into the hands. And then visualize your sit bones are sitting down into a chair, moving towards the end of the mat. Visualize the hip flexors are moving towards the sit bones. Back to the knees towards the kneecaps, fronts of the ankles towards the heels, and then point and flex your feet. Making sure the shoulder heads aren't lifting up away from the floor. If that's happening, give yourself a little strap or more length. Maybe even pulling the elbows apart a little bit if you can. Point your toes, draw 5 circles one direction, and then 5 circles the other direction. way. We're going to flex the feet so the soles of the feet are flat. We're going to keep the feet flexed. We're going to curl the toes as if they're holding onto a pencil. We're going to keep holding onto that imaginary pencil. We're going to point the foot like a dancer. We're going to keep pointing the foot like a dancer, and we're going to flick just the toes back to us. Flex, curl, point, and flip. Flex, curl, point, and flip. One more round. Flex, curl, point, and flip. Keep the action of the toes and then flex the feet so the soles of the feet are flat. Relax the shoulders, relax the neck, close your eyes. Take a few deep belly breaths here just to help with digestion. And then releasing your fingers, letting that left foot come down. Uncrossing your legs, knees and feet are hips distance apart, pubic bone, hip bones are level, shoulders are relaxed, fire up your feet. Let's come into the other side. So we're going to draw that left leg to us. We're going to interlace our fingers, left hand on top of right, over that left shin, keeping the ankle, the knee, and the hip in a nice straight line. Watch that we don't drop that left hip bone to the floor as we draw that left leg to us. So really thinking about the thigh and the calf lifting up into the hands as the hands are pulling back down on the shin to create that resistance. Think about pulling the right femur into the right hip socket. If you want to go deeper, you can start to straighten out that right leg. Sit your left butt into a chair and then think about moving the creases of your legs towards the caps of your legs. So hip flexor towards sit bone, back of the knee towards kneecap, ankle towards heel. Inner thighs dropping an imaginary block, outer thighs squeezing an imaginary block. Inner heels dropping an imaginary block, outer heels squeezing an imaginary block. One day you're going to be able to keep the natural lumbar curve here and not imprint the low back, so just seeing if you can find that. Armpits lifting up into the shoulders and sliding towards the ceiling as the shoulders relax. You should always be able to shake your head for no. If you can't, you can always make your arms a little bit longer by taking the hands behind the thighs or using a strap. Let's go 5 more breaths here. Bend the right leg, placing the sole of the right foot onto the floor. You're going to release your fingers. You're going to externally rotate that leg to take that left ankle on the outside of the right knee, coming into number 4 pose. Pubic bone, hip bones are level. Fire up your feet. Great place to lengthen the back rib cage away from the neutral pelvis and then lengthen the head away from the shoulders. Keeping the action of the neutral pelvis, you could do less by sliding the foot away from you. You could do more by sliding the foot to you. You could put your foot on a block. You could use a strap behind your thigh, or you could interlace your fingers, left hand on top of right, behind that right thigh. The tendency here is that that left hip sinks to the floor and the right thigh comes sort of at an angle. So what you want to think about doing is inner right thigh dropping the block to bring that right knee over that right hip and then injecting that right femur to keep that left hip from sinking too close to the floor. Shoulders are relaxed. You can shake your head for no. Start by taking the legs away from you and then use the arms to create resistance to pull the legs to you. Great place to get rid of that pinch in the hip by really moving your inner knee towards your outer knee. And then keep all that action as the arms start to win the tug of war and you start to slowly draw your legs to you. Lengthening from inner groin to inner knee, drawing back from outer knee to outer trochanter. Outer trochanters connect. No wrinkles in the heels. And then think about all those creases in your joints, moving to all those caps in your joints. So hip flexors to butts, knee crease to kneecap, ankle crease to heel, elbow crease to elbow cap, Armpits lift up into shoulders and slide forward. Shoulders meet the armpits. Crease of the wrist towards the back of the wrist. You can even try and find all the creases of all your knuckles moving towards the cap of all your knuckles. Shiny money. Focus on your body from the inside. Really try to find that spot where you're feeling maximum sensation to stretch, and really think about breathing into that space. Let's take 5 more breaths here. When those 5 breaths are complete, you're going to release. You're going to let that right foot come down towards the floor. You're going to pick up your hips. You're going to move your hips a little bit to the left. You're going to keep a nice solid action of the legs. Keep the triangle between the legs. And don't let any wrinkles come into the heels. A lot of us internally rotate our foot moving into this. So find the foot so that the knee is tracking the foot, and then commit to that left foot not changing. Use your arms and your legs and your core muscles to slowly lower the legs to the right. So again, you could do less by putting a block underneath your foot. You could put a block underneath your thigh. We don't want this to tug into your back or your knees at all. Some of us will be able to bring the foot all the way down to the floor, but don't internally rotate that foot and sickle it. It's a real tendency going on today. Both feet are active. From here, think neutral pelvis, even though you're not keeping a neutral pelvis. Push into your elbows to lift the back ribs, and try and lengthen your back ribs away from the pelvis, and your right ribs a little bit to the right to get a nice long spine. And then just mimic whatever arms you did on the other side. So if you did halfway to a T, cactus, or you can interlace your fingers, left hand on top of right, and place the hands at the back of the skull. Really find the action of the legs. Think of all the creases moving towards all the caps. It's a great place to really lengthen from inner groin to inner knee to outer knee. Outer knee draws back to the outer trochanter, and the outer trochanter come to one another. Think about the armpits hugging the shoulders and the shoulders lifting back to the armpits to create that connection. Elbows moving to elbow crease. Wrist crease towards the curve of the back of the wrist. Maybe you want to turn your gaze to look to the left, and then really breathing into that left side of the body. Beautiful waves of breath up and down the spine. Does anybody feel like they're not getting this one? Good. This is one of my favorite back releases. It's a goodie. Moving that upper bent knee towards the middle of the room, pulling both femurs back into the hips gently. Lower abdomen pulls in and up, flesh of butt moving away from low back. Let's go 5 more breaths here. gaze back to neutral, looking up at the ceiling. Bring your arms lower than your shoulders, halfway to a T. Really fire up your legs to keep your knees happy, pulling your belly to bring your legs back up to center. Straighten out your spine, find your hips at neutral. Left knee draws towards the navel to uncross, and just open up the back of that left leg. Bend to the knee as much as you need to be comfortable, and then see if you can find a neutral pelvis. Pubic bone, hip bones level. Generally, we have to pull the right femur in towards that right hip socket to keep that left leg from sinking that left hip. Maybe you can lengthen the back rib cage away from the pelvis. And then either having your hands on your ribs and your pelvis to keep them from popping, or finding a nice down dog arm with the arms in nice and close, the shoulders distance, pushing into the fingers and the palms. Without the pelvis or the ribs changing, exhale to lower the leg down. Heel will touch the floor, drag the heel towards the left sit bone. Take the leg away from you. Nice inhale to bring the leg back up. Exhale to lower the leg down, keeping the pelvis. Inhale to draw the leg towards the heel. Exhale to draw the heel away. Inhale back up. Exhale to lower. Inhale to draw the heel towards the sit bone. Exhale to draw it away. Inhale to bring it up. If it's easy peasy, you can start to float the left heel. Really noticing, making sure that right knee is staying centered, it's not wandering, but you're keeping that connection so the leg isn't moving, just the left leg is moving. And then after a few with that floating heel, you could always straighten out the right leg. That'll make it more challenging. Remember, bending one or both knees will make it less challenging, and it should never tug into your back. And then after a few, if you want to float that right heel, that is also an option. So then eventually that right heel would just float off the floor a wee little bit as you continue to do those slides on the other leg. And slowing it down or speeding it up, doing whatever you need to do. Making sure the shoulder heads aren't popping, because that's a sign that the trapezius muscles are doing all the work. It's getting strong, Caitlin, nice. So good for our backs and our knees. The next time we bring that left leg up, let's keep that left leg up, pressing into our fingers, pressing into our palms, bending one or both knees if needed, and then just trying zeros with that left heel. Try not to move anything else in the body, but just zeros with that left heel. And they can be small, and then gradually they can get bigger if you're keeping the connections and nothing else is moving. Always making sure that the shoulder heads aren't starting to pop. Trying to keep your foot nice and level if you can. Let's try and change directions with those circles. Stopping with those circles, let's bend that right leg, sole the right foot on the floor. We're going to cross that left thigh nice and tight over the right. So sleepy cow, pubic bone, hip bones are level. You could lengthen your spine, you could lengthen your skull. Again, you want less, you slide the foot away from you. You want more, you slide the foot to you. You could put your foot on a block. You could interlace your fingers, left hand on top of right behind the thighs. Making sure that the shoulders aren't lifting and that you can't shake your head for no. You could use a strap to make your arms longer if that was happening. Inject your arm bones just enough to lift your armpits up into your shoulders and up towards the sky. Find the imaginary sticks in the backs of the knees going towards the kneecaps, imaginary sticks at the crease of your ankle going towards your heel, imaginary sticks at your hip flexors moving towards your butt. Pubic bone lengthens away from navel, and the more you squeeze your legs, the deeper the stretch will be. Front thigh to back thigh, calf to shin will also increase the stretch. Let's point and flex the feet 5 times, and then do 5 circles each way. Inner thighs dropping an imaginary block, outer thighs squeezing an imaginary block. And then once you've done your 10 circles, you're going to flex your feet, soles of the feet flat. You're going to curl your toes like your toes are holding onto a pencil. You're going to keep holding onto an imaginary pencil as you point your feet like a dancer, and then you're going to flip just the toes back to you. Flex, curl, point, and flip. Flex, curl, point, and flip. Flex, curl, point, and flip. Keep the action to flip toes, but then flex the feet. Close your eyes. If you still want more stretch, think about pulling the femurs back into the hip socket, the thigh bones back into your hips. Let's take some big belly breaths here. Five more belly breaths. When those 5 breaths are complete, just releasing your fingers, letting your foot float down, uncross your legs. Walk your knees and your feet so they're hips distance apart. Arms beside you, push into your fingers, push into your palms. Find a nice neutral pelvis. And then pressing into the feet, you're going to lift the low back, the mid back, and the upper back. If it's easy for you to grab the ankles, you could, as long as your shins stay at a 90. For the first one, you want to grab them from the outside of the ankle. But if that causes your ankles to come behind your knees, then don't grab your ankles. So, you see how those shins are at 90? Yeah. And with you, try and come right around and grab the ankles. Flesh of butt moving away from the low back, middle of the butt moving towards the sky. Really thinking about the flesh of the butt moving away, zipping your belly. Back to the knees towards kneecaps, armpits towards shoulders, shoulders hug back towards those armpits. Calves slide towards the heels, and then think about going to the backs of the thighs, the hamstrings. You're lifting them up and you're sliding them from the back of the knee towards your butt as you lengthen your quads towards your knees. Let's take those heels wide. Yeah, right there. Good. Let's go 5 more breaths here. And then when those 5 breaths are complete, you're going to lower down one disc, one vertebra at a time, nice and slow, and then right into cobra pose. If you're holding your ankles, you can still hold your ankles. Soles of the feet clapping, knees coming apart. If you feel like you need support for the hips, then you can put something on your outer thighs, some blocks or some bolsters. So let's go and release. Yeah, there you go. Just find the ribs.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. finding nice 3-part yoga breaths up and down the spine. So back bend, 3-part yoga breath, back bend, 3-part yoga breath, amazing for digestion. Let's go 5 more breaths, bring it up and down the spine. And then when those 5 breaths are complete, bringing the feet back out so they're hips distance apart. If it's easy for you to grab the ankles, you can grab the ankles from the inside, thumbs pointing down, and come back into the back bend. But the shins have to be at 90. If that's causing your knees to go over your ankles, it's better just to have your arms beside you, pushing into the fingers and the palms as you come up into your pose. Shoulder heads rooting. Really thinking about the flesh of the butt moving away from the low back, the middle of the butt up towards the ceiling. Back to the knees to the kneecaps, ankles to the heels. Lift the toes, but try not to have those big toes way higher than those baby toes. And then see if you can pull the hamstrings from the back to the knees to the butt. So now when you come down, try and come down so that you're lengthening the back body instead of shortening it. Come down super slow and just think about lowering from here to here to here to here to here to here. You know what I mean? Okay. Yeah. Sounds good. So with you feel how that's taking your shins at a 90? Is that? Yeah. So better to just play there. Because yeah, 2 reasons. Number 1, your hips aren't 100% open enough for the knees to go past a 90-degree angle. So this even further back. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like a lunge. So this is safer than this. So if you're back bending like this, it's higher risk than this. One day you're going to go back bend like this, but we have to make sure that your knees are up for it first. And then the second reason is this is a lot easier to get a lift. Right, so a wall is stronger than a wall at this angle. So for you to get an actual bigger back bend, the 90 is going to help. And then just lift. See, yeah. Whereas if you don't have that power of that structure, you won't get as big of a lift. So that right there is 90. Yeah, I mean it's there's 90. Yeah, you feel that, hey? Yeah. And one day this will be 90, your thrusts will open and you'll grab your ankles. Yeah. Much better. You feel the difference, hey? And this is open, it's not like a bubble now. Yeah, you feel that, eh? Yeah. This is all long.
Just wanted to check.
Yeah. And then nice and slow, coming down 1 disc, 1 vertebra at a time, and into cobbler. Soles of the feet clapping, knees apart. Big, beautiful waves of breath up and down the spine. Soles of the feet clapping. Inner groins lengthening to inner knee. Inner knees drawing down towards the outer knees. Outer knees drawing back towards the outer trochanter. Outer trochanter is kind of, if you go to the femur bone, which is the thigh bone, it's that big fat part at the head of it. Like in a chicken bone, you know how one side's really fat? And then it's that. So how I find it is I think of going to the place where my thigh meets my butt. Women, you get kind of like a dimple where the thigh meets the butt, and then you think about pulling those 2 dimples to one another. And then you get a Panavayu, which is anal sphincter contracts and draws up. Mula bandha, pelvic floor muscles engage and draw up, and then that shifts the sacrum to a more neutral position. Let's just go 5 more breaths here. haven't done so already, you can use the hands or the leg muscles to bring those knees together. We're going to roll off to our right side. Right arm's going to become a pillow for our head, left palm in front of the chest. We're going to come into tabletop position. We're going to start with the index fingers pointing forward and spreading our fingers from that. We want to have our hands a shoulder's distance apart. We want our thighs at a 90, and eventually we want our forearms at a 90-degree angle, but if our wrists are sensitive, then our hands are further forward. Really pushing into all the fingertips, pushing into the entire circumference of the palm and rooting it down. And then I like to think about the backs of the knuckles lifting up away from the floor. Tuck the toes, get a good old grip on the toes. Try and have your feet a hips distance apart. Try not to move the heels. Do a couple shoulder push-ups here to feel that upper arm bone, that humerus bone moving inside the shoulder socket. And then see if you can find that place of extension, no tension. So you're pushing the floor away, but it's really easy to move your neck. Nice. Stop with a nice neutral neck, pull in your belly. Exhale to curl the spine, think angry kitty. Inhale, shoulders back, sit bones lift, gazing up. Exhale to curl the spine, think angry kitty. And then inhaling, shoulders back, sit bones lift, gazing up. Particularly when you come into the back end, if you let those arm bones sink, you'll notice that you can't shake your head for no. And if you push too hard, you can't shake your head for no. So really looking for that place where there's freedom of movement in the neck. Enough tension in the neck and shoulders in life. We do not have to have it in our yoga practice. Elbow creases moving towards elbow caps, especially if you know we're bendy. If we're wrist flippers, we can flip our wrists. So the first stage would be just to get our hands to a 90. If we're at a 90 and that feels fine, no issues, then we can point our fingers out to the side and do these poses. Once we pointed our fingers out to the side for a few practices and that feels great, then we can start to flip one wrist at a time. Again, making sure that this forearm isn't past a 90 because that's too much of a good thing. So you could always have a block and just measure that out. If you're doing one wrist at a time, making sure that you count how many times you do, the arcing on one side and you do both wrists evenly. Those of us that do regular arm balances, standing on our hands and lifting our feet, could flip both wrists at the same time. But remembering, we never want to have pain in our wrists, we never want to have pain in our knees. And so a lot of us, almost all of us that are flipping our hands this way, we're not doing shoulders distance. You want to take those hands a little bit wider so that you could have this form at a 90 this way. So it's not overstretching that wrist. So the wrist is underneath the elbow, is underneath the shoulder. Excuse me. And stopping with a nice straight spine, we're going to point our feet, tops of the feet down, push into the baby toes, and see if you can lift the ankles a little bit like an upward dog. Getting rid of the back bend, zipping your belly up, lifting your ribs, pushing the floor away just right so you can still shake your head for no. And then making some circles with the hips, keeping the back nice and straight. This is going to be deeper on the wrists, so paying attention to that. We don't want any pain. Again, trying to keep that extension, no tension in the shoulder, and allow that upper arm bone to massage inside your shoulder socket. Pay attention to your wrists, noticing if there's a spot in your wrist that's tighter that you're avoiding, noticing if the humerus bone is avoiding part of your shoulder. I like to keep a nice neutral neck here so my ears are with my shoulders. Try out to your feet if you can help it, creating that stability there. Great place to find all the creases of the joints, moving to all the caps of the joints. Let's change direction with our circles. So again, if you're flipping only one wrist, making sure you do both sides even. want you on the tops of the feet, but just a little lifting the ankle. So not like this, ideally, but like top of the foot, just a little lift in the ankle. Yeah, like a little more pointed if you could. Yeah, right there. Yeah. And then stopping with those circles, flip your hands, index fingers point forward, making sure the hands are shoulders distance apart, tuck your toes. Try to keep that nice straight back as you take your butt back. A nice tool here, since we have it, is to take your stick, place it in your hip flexors, and really thinking about moving those hip flexors towards the sit bones as you zip the lower abdomen up and over that stick. Sliding the hip flexors as far away from the wrist as you can. Find all 10 fingers, find the entire circumference of the palms. Externally rotating the upper arm, think about the armpits hugging the shoulders and the shoulders hugging the armpits back. As if it was a fist fitting into a hand, right? The armpit is the fist, the shoulder is the hand, and they're pushing into one another. And then find that same connection, crease of elbow moving to elbow cap. The elbow crease pushes into the elbow pushes back. Think about the inner wrist lifting up away from the floor as the circumference of the palm roots down into the floor. The goal is not to get the head to the floor. Lengthen your torso, see if you can find a little more space. Yeah. Lift the ribs and the belly off the thighs, and then keeping the knees bent, start to come into this down dog. Try to keep the contact between the thighs and the ribs for as long as you can. Remember, staying in puppy pose is always a great option if that's not appropriate for you because you're having shoulder stuff. Or you're just having one of those days where you're tired. And with those nice bent knees, really think. Hip flexors moving towards butt. Lift your sit bones up, zip your belly, find your natural lumbar curve. Think back to the knees moving towards the kneecaps. Kneecaps hugging back into the knees. Think ankles moving towards the heels, heels hugging the ankles back. Front thigh to back thigh, calf to shin. And then imagine you could move your calves down towards your heels and your hamstrings pull back forward towards the thighs as you lengthen the hamstrings up towards the sit bones. Start to straighten out those legs. Big, beautiful breaths. Let's go 5 more breaths here. And when those 5 breaths are complete, you're going to come down onto your knees, back into tabletop position. You're going to put your block beside you. You're going to find your fingers, your palms, toes, and toes. You're going to take your right hand, you're going to place it on the back of your skull, and you're going to lift your right elbow up. We're going to try and keep our hips and our shoulders level, and we're going to lengthen from right armpit to right hip flexor, from left hip flexor to left armpit. Then I want you to find a crisscross. I want you to move your left armpit and your right hip in opposite directions, and I want you to move your right armpit and your left hip in opposite directions. So it's a cross-referencing like there's an X crossing your body. So right armpit moves away from left hip, right hip moves away from left armpit. You're going to exhale to bring your elbow to point to the floor. You're going to inhale to bring your elbow up to the sky. You're going to exhale to bring your elbow to point to the floor. You're going to inhale your elbow to point to the, I guess it'd be more the person beside you, not the sky. See if you can do that without getting any wrinkles in the backs of the wrists. Try to keep the shoulders level and really find that cross-referencing from hip to armpit to keep the torso stable. The next time that right elbow comes up, it's going to stay up. Think about the elbow crease moving to the elbow cap. Think about the armpits hugging to the shoulders. Think about the wrist hugging the crease towards the curve hugging back. Keep the shape of the arm, keep the shape of the torso. Exhale to bring that right elbow towards the right ribs. Inhale to take the right hand behind the back of the skull. Exhale, right elbow towards right ribs. Inhale, hand to the back of the skull. Try to keep the elbow as high as the wrist the whole time. Try not to turtleneck your head. So lift up the back of the skull. If you know you're one of those people where I'm lifting up the back of the skull, let's see if we can get the shoulder level. There we go. Keep cross-referencing from armpit to hip to armpit. Take the right elbow towards the right wrist and just pause there. Don't force anything. Keep breathing. And then think about taking your hand towards the waist as the elbow lifts up. So you're going to take the hand towards the waist, elbow lifts up. And you're just going to rotate that humerus bone inside the shoulder. And then maybe you can start to take the elbow a little bit wider as you continue to internally rotate that shoulder. The next time we internally rotate that shoulder, we're going to hold it. We're going to lift the shoulder and the elbow up. We're going to think about crease moving to cat, and we're going to see if we can slide the hand to our sacrum or maybe even up our back. Shoulder head lifting, elbow pulling apart. No turtlenecking. A lot of us are letting our heads drop. If you close your eyes and open your eyes, are you looking straight down or are you looking back towards your knees? Lift up your head, so if you close your eyes and open your eyes, you are looking straight down at the floor beneath your face. Breathing here, cross-reference to balance. Is anybody finding this super easy? The right elbow is not higher than the right shoulder, it's level. Yeah, so we're pulling it out and lifting it up. The shoulder head is lifting up, so one day they're level. Good, and then nice and slow, we're going to bring that hand down, placing it back onto the floor. Find the fingers, find the palms. You can rest whenever you need to rest. Let's take that left hand to the back of the skull. Remember, we're never allowed to feel our wrist. Hand pushes into the back of the skull, head pushes back into the hand. So you've got the natural cervical curve of the neck, and C7, which is that bony bit at the bottom of your neck, is not sticking out. Try not to let that left shoulder lift, but feel like you're taking the left chest down as the right armpit lifts up into the shoulder. Lengthen from hip to armpit on both sides. And then find the cross reference of right armpit moving away from left hip flexor. Left armpit moving away from right hip. So right hip moves away from left armpit, right armpit moves away from left hip. Exhale to bring the elbow to point to the floor. Inhale to bring the elbow to point to your neighbor to the left. Exhale to bring the left elbow to point to the floor. Inhale to take the left elbow up to point to your neighbor. Rest whenever you need to rest. Hands wider will help rightly. So pinky fingers are wide. Hands can also move forward if you feel your wrists. And if you still feel your wrists, you can move blocks, but your hands can move a lot forward. So again, you feel your wrist. Move that right hand way forward. That's going to take it completely out of the wrist. The next time you bring that left elbow up, we're going to hold that left elbow up. Find your cross reference, particularly from right armpit to left hip, but also find it from right hip to left armpit. Lengthen the two sides of the torso. Now try and keep the elbow, shoulder, and wrist to the same height. Bring the left elbow to the left ribs. Take the hand to the back of the skull. Elbow to ribs, hand to the back of the skull. Notice how you want to shorten on that left side. So keep lengthening from left armpit to left hip. Good, hey? But rest when you need to rest. I know it looks so simple, but it's so not. Head down a little bit, Lara. Right there, girl. Try and keep that elbow high if you can. What's this called? I don't know, I just kind of made it up. I've been reading a lot about shoulder rotations and just lots of physio type movements, but put into yoga. We'll have to come up with a name for it. That's not torture. And then elbow comes towards ribs and just hang out. Try and get rid of the wrinkles in the wrists. Shoulder stability to the next level, maybe. And just breathing. We did it a little bit back at the old studio, but I've added to it recently. Yeah. And then, so again, we're going to rotate at that humerus bone. So we're going to bring the left hand down and the rotating in the upper arm bone. So you're moving that upper arm bone inside the shoulder socket, and then gradually you can start to take the elbow out a little bit, away from the ribs. Again, cross-reference from right armpit to left hip, so you don't start leaning into that right side. And then lift the palm up, elbow down, and just hang out here in that internal rotation. Try and get the elbow and the shoulder level if you can. Right armpit to left hip. Left shoulder to right hip, lengthen the two sides of the torso, keep the shoulders stable, and then see if you can slide the back of the hand to the love handle, to the sacrum, to the ribs, maybe between the shoulder blades, but try not to angel wing those shoulder blades, and then try and get your elbow and your shoulder and your wrist level, and then reach the crease of the elbow towards the elbow cap. Lift the armpit up into the shoulder, shoulder pulls back down and hugs the armpit, and then slide the skin of the armpit towards the floor. And just breathe here. Big, beautiful breath. Watch that elbow. Right elbow hugs elbow cap, especially if you know you're a hyperextender. Little bend in that elbow never hurt anybody, but sure built a lot of strength. Make sure you're not popping through the base of that left thumb, so right thumb and index. We don't want any weight in that outer right wrist. Let's just go a few more breaths here. Cross-reference the heck out of this. And then slowly slide the hand off the sacrum, bring your hand down. Child's pose if you need it, or puppy pose. Puppy pose with a stick is a nice option. And really find the length and the space of the back body. Externally rotating the upper arm, internally rotating the lower arm, mini bend in the elbows, and then choosing to come into down dog or stay in your puppy pose. With the down dog, really find those bent knees. So rebend your knees, and then find the zigzags of the legs. Backs of the knees to kneecaps, ankles to heels, hip flexor to butt. And then everybody knows where their hamstrings are. It's between the back of the knee and the butt. Let's try and cross-reference our hamstrings. All right, so from inner right knee, lengthen to outer right hip. So you're making an X. And then from inner left knee, lengthen to outer left hip. Keep the knees bent and try and really find these hamstrings. And then from the inner groins, that part of your back thigh, lengthen away from the outer knees. And then draw the hamstrings forward and slide them up towards the butt as the calves slide towards the heels. So you're hugging the hamstrings forward, the thighs are pushing back, and then you're cross-referencing from the outer knees to the inner thighs, close to the groin, and then from the inner knees to the outer thighs. Am I talking Greek or is anyone getting that? Good. It's nice to get it. It's like, okay, we thought we were sliding them before, and now we're cross-referencing and sliding them. So now zigzag those legs, zigzag those arms to find the creases moving to the calves. Let's cross-reference from left armpit to right hip. And then from right armpit to left hip. And then see if you can pick up your right hand and place it on your sacrum without moving to the left side. So keep that strong cross-reference, keep the evenness through the torso, weight does not shift to the left side, and you place your right hand on your right sacrum. Humbling. A little bend in the knees will help you to cross-reference. And then see if you can release that hand and take that hand to the thigh, the calf, or the heel, and bring it into a little twist, looking under that left armpit. Rest whenever you need to rest. You got permission. Breathing. Good work, everybody. Make sure the elbow's safe with that little mini bend. And then right hand comes down. Cross-reference the hamstrings, inject the hamstrings, keep the bend in the knee. Lengthen from hip to armpit, and then lengthen from right hip to left armpit to right hip, and see if you can keep that left hand, pick it up, keep the body still, and place your hand on your sacrum without shifting the whole weight to the right. Breathing here, armpit to shoulder, trying to get rid of the wrinkles in the wrists. Palm up. The back of the hand comes to the sacrum. And then see if you can take that hand and take the body into a twist as you take the hand to the calf or the heel and you look underneath the armpit. If you're a knee knocker, drop a block. There you go, girl. That was for Lisa, she's watching the video. Also known as a knee knocker. Cross-reference like crazy. Left hip to right armpit. And then gaze comes down, hand comes down, find your fingers, find your palms. And let's bend our knees and come into any child's pose you fancy, as long as your knees are happy and as long as your forehead is resting on something. And then let's just find our breath. With each inhale, feel the whole body expanding. And with each exhale, feel the whole body gently contracting. So inhaling, whole body expanding. Exhale, whole body gently contracting. Not forcing the breath in any way, just organically allowing it to grow as we add a little mantra. Exhaling out that one thing that keeps getting in your way. Could be something physical, mental, or emotional, whatever pops into your mind, or maybe you've been working on something for a while. Exhale to let that one thing go. The beauty of letting go is it creates space to invite in, to manifest. So with each inhale, drawing in the opposite of whatever it is you're letting go of. Excuse me. Exhaling to let go, and inhaling to draw in. Let's take 5 more breaths here, really sticking with our mantra for every single one of those 5 breaths. Excuse me. 5 breaths are complete, we're gonna bring our hands underneath our shoulders, we're gonna come up, we're gonna tuck our toes, and we're gonna come into a squat. So, if we're new to squatting, generally, or if our hips are a little bit tighter, our toes point out and our knees are gonna follow our feet. If that's too much, we can sit on a block or 2 blocks and walk the feet away from us until we're comfortable. Excuse me. Those of us that can keep our feet straight like they're on a pair of skis, with the feet at hips distance apart, can do that. Knees are going to point out a little bit. We're going to walk our fingers forward. Those of us that can keep the feet together and the heels down can do that. Either one works. Walk the fingers forward, really thinking about lengthening the spine. And then see if you can find the connection of the hip flexors moving towards the butt, the backs of the knees moving towards the front of the knees, and the crease of the ankle moving towards the heel. And remember, like anything, it's a push and a pull, right? So the crease moves into the calf, but the calf pushes back into that crease. Think front thigh to back thigh, think calf to shin. And then we're going to see if we can grab our elbows. Right hand's going to grab left elbow, left hand's going to grab right elbow. We're going to start to bring those arms up outside our ears. We're going to think about the armpit moving towards the shoulder hugging back onto the armpit. We're going to think about the elbow moving to the elbow cap hugging back. We're going to think about the crease of the wrist lifting towards the curve of the wrist, that pushing back. Find your fingers, find your palms, and then lift your butt and try and get your butt as high as your elbows and pull the butt and the elbows in 2 directions and try and get rid of the hunch in your mid-upper back. So butt not higher than shoulders if you can help it, but elbows up as high as those shoulders if you can. So eventually we're creating this nice long line. And then sink it down. Walk the fingers forward, let the head hang. You can hang out here relaxing, or you can take this into a crow, bringing the backs of the arms to the shins, the hands come out, the shoulders distance apart. You can float your feet up together or one at a time, or you can take one foot up, other foot up. But the trick is to get the elbows right over those wrists. The other trick is to lose contact. So check this out. You got contact, you lose contact, right? So try and keep the contact, particularly if you're new to it, and see if you can come into it without losing that connection. When I first started, I really visualized that I had something really valuable between my arm and my shin. I didn't want to drop it. Eventually we do it from here, but that's a lot harder, right? Like a lot harder. Nice rally, that's coming. And then coming back down, we're going to do the opposite crossing. So left arm's going to take right elbow, right hand's going to take left elbow. We're going to lift and lengthen. Lifting up the back of the skull, trying to get rid of any hunches in our mid-upper back. Move the hip flexors away from the backs of the knees, elbows away from the armpits. Try and lower the chest if you can, Shelley. Nobody should feel their knees. Let's go 3 more breaths. When those 3 breaths are complete, coming down, releasing. Take one hand behind us, other hand behind us, coming onto our butts. Hands behind the thighs. Make a nice C with twist. Keep your right shoulder down. If that's lifting, you're going to want to lift your legs and put some support underneath that left thigh. And then pushing into your left elbow, pick up your ribs and move them away from your spine and away from your pelvis. Really sitting your right butt into a chair and moving right hip flexor to right sit bone. See if you can get the spine straight right up to the crown. And then whatever arms feel good. You could go halfway to a T, you could do T, you could do cactus, you could do the headstand version. And then find all your creases, moving to all your caps. Get rid of all the wrinkles in your heels. So again, with that nice digestive focus, big belly breaths here. Did a lot of work to get things moving in our abdomen, so you can help flush it out by breathing into that space. In these twists, I like palms up, just because it's an external rotation, just helps to release the trapezius muscles. Really breathing into that right side of the body. If you want more of a thoracic opener, reach your elbows away from your spine. Reach the wrist away from the elbows. But not to that point of extension with tension. Make sure you can always shake your head for no. Let's go 5 more breaths here. And then when those 5 breaths are complete, bringing your gaze back to center. You can always lower your arms to bring your legs up. Excuse me. Uncross your legs, straighten out your spine. Let's cross the left leg over the right, hooking the ankle if you like. Move the hips to the left, and then slowly lower to the right. Excuse me. Pushing into your right elbow to move the right ribs to the right, and then up away from the pelvis. And then mimicking whatever arms you did on the other side. Really finding those nice waves of breath up and down the spine on that left side. Let's go 5 more breaths on this side. And then when those 5 breaths are complete, Bring your neck to neutral, lower your arms, fire up your legs into your core to bring those legs back up to center. Uncross your legs, straighten out your spine. If that was deep for you, give your legs a hug. That felt just right, you can go right into Shavasana from there. If you're on a double, you can do legs up the wall, headstand, or Virasana.